Next, we will be discussing mycobacterial infections. In mycobacterial infection, we need to discuss two important infections. One is cutaneous tuberculosis and second one is leprosy. Let us first discuss about cutaneous tuberculosis. Depending on the source of infection, you can divide cutaneous tuberculosis into three types. It can be exogenous, it can be endogenous, or tuberculid. Example of exogenous are tubercular chancre, TBVC. TBVC stands for tuberculosis verrucosa cutis, which is also known as anatomist wart. Examples of endogenous are lupus vulgaris, scrophroderma, orificial tuberculosis. Now remember that lupus vulgaris is the most common type of cutaneous tuberculosis, and this generally occur due to hematogenous spread, and that is the reason why we have included in endogenous, because it is hematogenous. But sometimes what happens, if there is a sputum of the patient lying on the floor and a child sits over that sputum and develop a lesion of lupus vulgaris, that is exogenous, isn't it? So this is included in both exogenous as well as endogenous. Some book mention in both, but remember, if both are given in separate option, choose endogenous because commonly it is hematogenous spread. Then scleroderma is also the most common type, but in children. So this is the most common type in children. Lupus vulgaris is most common overall, and this occurred due to contiguous spread. Contiguous spread. Contiguous spread, that is from adjacent area. Like if the patient is having tubercular lymph node and then the skin get involved, that is contiguous spread. And orificial tuberculosis, it occurs due to autoinoculation. So we are going to discuss all these different types individually. Let us first start with tubercular chancre. So tubercular chancre, it presents with ulcer with undermined edges. Ulcer with undermined edges. Now remember that ulcer with undermined edges can be seen in so many conditions, like it can be seen in chancroid, it can be seen in pyoderma gangrenosum, and just now I told you it can be seen in tubercular chancre, that is tuberculosis. So these are three important conditions which you need to remember whenever this is mentioned, that is ulcer with undermined edges. Then these three things should come to your mind, that is chancroid, pyoderma gangrenosum and tuberculosis. Now remember that this tubercular chancre is primary tuberculosis. So you can imagine how rare this is, because generally primary tuberculosis occurs in lungs, isn't it? And the first focus which is formed is known as Ghon's focus. Okay. So if before pulmonary involvement, cutaneous involvement occurs, then the first ulcer which is formed is known as tubercular chancre. So this is also analogous to Ghon's focus in lung. So tubercular chancre is analogous to Ghon's focus in lung. Second is TBVC, tuberculosis verrucosa cutis. This is post-primary tuberculosis. So this is not primary, this is post-primary tuberculosis with good resistance. Now what this means? Seen in individual with good CMI, cell mediated immunity. So this is not a primary tuberculosis, this is post-primary tuberculosis, okay, and because the patient is already sensitized, the immunity is good. So this is seen in individuals with good immunity, good resistance. How they clinically present? Clinically they present with verrucous, that is rough warty growth, which is usually single over exposed areas like hand and feet. Okay, so this type of tuberculosis usually occur due to inoculation, and because inoculation generally occur over exposed areas, this lesion is also seen generally over exposed areas like hand and feet. Okay, so generally this single verrucous warty growth start developing, which heal with scarring, Now I told you this is also known as anatomist wart. Why it is known as anatomist wart? The reason is that this is very commonly seen in anatomy professors. Why? Because during cadaver dissection or while handling these tissue specimen, they might acquire this infection. Okay, so that's why it is known as anatomist wart or pathologist wart. Next is lupus vulgaris. As I already told you that this is the most common type of cutaneous tuberculosis, and generally it occurs due to hematogenous spread, so this is included in endogenous more than exogenous. How they clinically present? Clinically they present with violaceous or erythematous plaque. Plaque we have already discussed, these are solid raised lesions which are having horizontal diameter more than vertical. So violaceous or erythematous plaque with central scarring. This also I told you that if central clearing is mentioned, they are talking about tinea. If central crusting is mentioned, they are talking about leishmaniasis, and central scarring is seen in lupus vulgaris. So violaceous means purplish and erythematous means reddish. So purplish or reddish plaque, solid raised lesion with central scarring, which on diascopy, if you recall, we have already discussed diascopy also. What is diascopy? If you take a glass slide and press this lesion, okay, so this pressing of the lesion with the glass slide, this is known as diascopy. So if you press the lesion of lupus vulgaris, which on diascopy show golden brown apple jelly nodules at the periphery of the lesion, So many times these questions have been asked. Which of the following is a plaque type of tuberculosis? Central scarring is seen in, apple jelly nodules is seen in. So these are the findings of lupus vulgaris. So apple jelly nodules are generally seen at the periphery. So in a lesion of lupus vulgaris, you will find central scarring, and at the periphery you will get these nodules, and this nodule is finding of diascopy. Now remember one more point. What happens initially, this is the lesion and the scarring is present in the center. Now as the lesion progresses, you will find that one margin keep on extending, leaving behind scarring on another. So it becomes asymmetrical. So you can note on this point also, lesions are generally asymmetrical with one active margin leaving behind scarring on another, Next is scleroderma. I already told you this is the most common type seen in children. So overall most common is lupus vulgaris, but in children most common is scleroderma. And as I told you, this occurs due to contiguous spread. Contiguous means from the adjacent area. Okay, so remember, this type of tuberculosis generally develop, involvement of skin occurs due to some underlying tubercular focus. Okay. So whenever there is skin involvement in scleroderma, there is always some underlying tubercular focus. So there is a tubercular focus beneath. This tubercular focus can be in the form of lymph node, it can be in the form of bone, or it can be in the form of joint. So let us consider that this is the skin of the patient and this is the underlying tubercular lymph node. So what will happen? Gradually this lymph node will rupture and it will involve this overlying skin. This skin tuberculosis, which is due to underlying tubercular focus, is known as scleroderma. Now because this lymph node had ruptured, you will find multiple sinuses, caseous necrosis which is going on in the tuberculosis in the lymph node. This material comes out. Okay, so what is the common presentation? It presents with multiple sinus It presents with multiple sinus with caseous discharge. So the caseous material comes out with caseous discharge. Most common lymph node involved is cervical. So most common lymph node involved is cervical group of lymph nodes. Now because there is caseous necrosis which is going on, sometimes the perilesional skin appears violaceous. So lesions may have violaceous, that is purplish, perilesional skin. So you will find enlarged lymph nodes, some of them might have ruptured, there might be sinus formation, then around the sinuses, around the lesion there will be a purplish color. So this is the common presentation. Then orificial tuberculosis. Orificial. I already told you orificial tuberculosis is due to autoinoculation. As it is very obvious from the name itself, orificial. So this generally involved perioral and perianal area. Now this is not very important. You just remember that what happens due to inoculation at these orifices, these lesions start developing around lips and around perianal area. So this is orificial tuberculosis. This is due to autoinoculation of infection. Next is tuberculin. Now the important point to remember here is that tuberculin is not due to mycobacterial infection, it is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity. So this is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity. Why? Because these are the three characteristics which are seen in all the patients who are suffering from tuberculin. The first one is tuberculin test is positive. Lesions are AFB negative. And patients, they respond well to ATT. So what you can conclude from these 3 points, tuberculin test is positive, that means hypersensitivity is there. Lesions are AFB negative, that is mycobacteria is absent. Patient respond well to ATT, that means it is related to mycobacteria. So frank infection is absent, but it is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity. Now you might be wondering, if there is no mycobacteria, if there is no AFB, how come this hypersensitivity is going on? So remember that in the skin, in these lesions, there is no mycobacteria, but it might be present elsewhere. So due to that mycobacteria which is present elsewhere in the body, like in the lungs, in the bones or in the intestine, what happens is skin start developing this hypersensitivity reaction, and this is known as tuberculin. Okay. Now there are 3 different types of tuberculins. These are also known as true tuberculins. True tuberculins. First one is lichen sclerophosarum. Remember that was scleroderma. This is sclerophosarum, also known as micropapular type. Then second is papulonecrotic type, and third one is erythema induratum of Bazin, sometimes also referred to as Bazin disease. Now how they present? Lichen sclerophosarum, it presents with, as it is very clear, micropapule, very small, tiny papules. So tiny papules without necrosis or scarring over trunk. So in lichen sclerophosarum, you will get very tiny papules. They generally develop over trunk and there is no necrosis. So when they heal, they don't leave behind any scarring. So without necrosis or scarring. Now this is very obvious from the name itself, papulonecrotic. So you will find papules with central necrosis, and because necrosis is going on, heals with scarring. Heals with scarring, usually over extremities. Usually over extremities. And erythema induratum of Bazin, which is also known as Bazin's disease. Here you will get erythematous nodules. Erythematous nodules over posterior leg, so erythematous nodules over posterior leg which may ulcerate, so erythematous nodules over posterior leg which may ulcerate. This is a type of lobular paniculitis. Paniculus is used for subcutaneous layer, itis for inflammation. So this is inflammation of subcutaneous layer, and subcutaneous layer have two parts, I told you, septal and lobular. So this is lobular paniculitis. Lobules have fat. Okay, so this is generally developing over the fatty area of the leg, that is the posterior part of the leg, that is the calves. Now remember few important facts here, like erythema nodosum. Erythema nodosum is also known as facultative tuberculate. See, these three which we have discussed, these are true tuberculates, while this is facultative. Do you know the meaning of this term facultative? Like you might have read about facultative anaerobes. They are aerobes, sometimes act as anaerobes. Similarly, this is facultative tuberculate. So there are various other causes, but sometimes it is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity also. So erythema nodosum have many causes, and these causes of erythema nodosum are sometimes asked, so you can very easily remember them with the help of this mnemonic, that is nodosum. So to remember the causes of erythema nodosum, just remember nodosum. So the first cause is no cause, that is idiopathic. It can be due to drugs like oral contraceptive pills, associated with sarcoidosis, streptococcal infection, might be associated with ulcerative colitis. It develops during pregnancy, so maternity, and as I already told you, mycobacterial hypersensitivity, so tuberculosis. So these are various causes which you can remember. Generally it is idiopathic. It can be due to drugs like oral contraceptive pills, associated with streptococcal infection, sarcoidosis, ulcerative colitis, might develop during pregnancy, and due to tubercular infection. Okay, so that's why it is known as facultative tuberculate. Okay, now what is the presentation of erythema nodosum? Erythema nodosum also present with erythematous nodules like in erythema induratum, but these are present over anterior leg which do not ulcerate. So sites are different. Induratum over posterior leg, nodosum over anterior leg, they ulcerate while these do not ulcerate. Then there is one more condition known as acne aegmenata, also known as LMDF, lupus miliaris disseminata fasciae. This is false tuberculate. Now why this is false tuberculate? Because initially it was grouped under tuberculate, but now there is no proven role. So in various studies it has been found that there is no proven role of mycobacterial hypersensitivity. So this is false tuberculate. This is a very rare condition, and how it presents? It presents with multiple papules over middle one third of the face, especially around eyelids. So you will get these lesions over middle one third of the face, especially around eyelids. Now whichever type of tuberculosis you are dealing with, tuberculosis or tuberculate, the treatment is same, and the treatment is ATT, anti-tubercular treatment. And here in cutaneous tuberculosis, for the first 2 months we give 4 drugs, and in the next 4 months we give 3 drugs, that is isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol for the first 2 months, and isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol for the next 4 months. So total duration of therapy is 6 months. Now, I've seen many a times a student get confused between the doses of these anti-tubercular drugs. So, the doses can very easily be remembered by this very simple mnemonic, and that mnemonic is I resp. So, I resp, okay, 5, 10, 15, 15 and 25 mg per kg body weight. So you can see how simple it is to remember the doses. Isoniazid 5 mg per kg body weight, rifampicin 10, ethambutol 15, streptomycin 15, pyrazinamide 25 mg per kg body weight is the dose in adults. Now remember, there are few atypical mycobacteria. Atypical mycobacteria, these are the two examples. Mycobacteria marinum and Mycobacteria ulcerans. Mycobacteria marinum is the one which causes swimming pool granuloma, also known as fish tank granuloma, while this is the one which causes Buruli ulcer. So sometimes they ask you swimming pool granuloma is caused by, Buruli ulcer is caused by, so these are the causative agent. In swimming pool granuloma, you will find linear lesions along lymphatics, like along lymphatics in sporotrichosis there were linear lesions. So because these linear lesions are also present over extremities like the sporotrichosis lesions, so this is also known as sporotrichoid spread or sporotrichoid type of lesions. Okay, so here also linear lesions are seen, while Buruli ulcer are painless ulcer. Treatment here is minocycline, while here rifampicin and streptomycin is given. If you find it difficult to remember these points, there is a very simple mnemonic: marinum, MM, swimming, MM, treatment, M, minocycline. Okay. Similarly, ulcerans. So here the last alphabet is M, so the treatment is M. Here the last alphabet is S, so treatment is S, streptomycin. Ulcer have last alphabet R, so here the treatment is R, and this is very obvious, ulcerans, so it causes ulcer. Which ulcer? Buruli ulcer. Okay, so it is so simple to remember. So marinum, swimming, minocycline; ulcerans, ulcer, treated with rifampicin and streptomycin. Next mycobacterial infection is leprosy. Here you can see this is the solitary verrucous growth which is seen over exposed areas like hand. This is a case of tuberculosis verrucosa cutis, also known as anatomist wart. There is sometimes we get confused between wart and anatomist wart. Okay, so wart is a viral infection, anatomist wart is a tuberculosis. So how to differentiate? So this is a very simple mnemonic which will help you differentiate these two lesions, that is ISD number. So first of all, count them. Number, warts are multiple, anatomist wart is single. Then ISD stands for induration, scarring and discharge. So look for ISD, which is absent in warts but present in anatomist wart, that is TBVC. And this scarring is generally central and this discharge is generally serous. So this is a very simple mnemonic to remember, ISD number. This will help you differentiate warts from anatomist wart. Then tubercular chancre, I told you, in a child before any primary inoculation, if inoculation occurs in the skin, then this tubercular ulcer with undermined edges is known as tubercular chancre. Then lupus vulgaris lesions are generally violaceous or erythematous, like you can see this erythematous lesion which is persisting for many weeks and months with central scarring. And if you do diascopy, that is if you press it with the glass slide, you will find the color change. So what happens, this erythematous lesion gradually appears brownish. So this blanching occurs, this brownish color is seen. This is due to these apple jelly nodules which are generally seen where? At the periphery of the lesion. So apple jelly nodules are characteristic of lupus vulgaris. Then scleroderma, I told you, this is commonly seen in children. So whenever question will come, there will be a child, and most common group of lymph node involved is cervical. So they are showing you neck area, and over neck what you will get? You will get this sinus tract formation. So sinus tract is formed. So if you get multiple sinus with discharge over neck area which is persisting for a long duration, and if you palpate you get these lymph nodes, then probably this is scleroderma. Again, scleroderma, most common lymph node is cervical, but other areas can also get involved. Like here, due to axillary lymph node involvement, you can see this enlarged axillary lymph node, and some of them have ruptured to form the sinus tract. Here over the chest wall, it might be due to bone tuberculosis in the ribs. So these are the cases of scleroderma. While I told you there is a tuberculate which present with very tiny papules. So you can see very tiny papules. So this is micropapular type, also known as lichen sclerophotosorum, and this generally occur over trunk. Okay, so lichen sclerophotosorum. Now remember, this starts with this term lichen. So many a times we get confused with lichen planus. So remember, there are various types of lichen planus. There is lichen planus pigmentosus, lichen planus pemphigoides. But this lichen is not a type of lichen planus. This is what? This is a type of tuberculate. Okay, so this question was also asked, that which of the following is not a type of lichen planus, and all the types were mentioned, and one of them was lichen sclerophotosorum, and that was the answer, because this is not a type of lichen planus. This is what? This is a type of tuberculate. Then erythema nodosum, I told you, erythema nodosum are erythematous nodules which are present over anterior part of the leg, and you can see they have not ulcerated. They are generally bilateral, and they are also known as facultative tuberculate because there are so many causes. I already told you the causes, like sarcoidosis. Sometimes it can be seen in Behçet's disease due to drugs, due to streptococcal infection. So due to these various causes, it can occur, but you need to differentiate it with erythema induratum. Induratum occur over posterior leg, this occurs over anterior leg. So next is leprosy. So like we all know that leprosy is caused by Mycobacterium leprae, and this condition is not just about the infection with this bacteria, it is more about the host immunity. So once there is infection with this bacteria, now everything depends on the host immunity. So depending on the status of the host immunity, different types of leprosy can occur. Like if the immunity of the patient is excellent, it is good, it is fair, or it is poor. So if it is excellent, there might be a possibility that patient might not develop any disease. Okay, so despite infection, no disease. But if it is good, patient can develop TT type of leprosy. If it is fair, patient can develop borderline type of leprosy. Borderline, there are different types of borderline leprosy, like BT. This can interchange to BB, which can interchange to BL. So as you can see, these can interchange. So all these three are unstable forms of leprosy. Why unstable? Because they can interchange. While this is the stable pole, similarly this is also a stable pole. So when it is poor, patient develop LL type of leprosy. So you can see that different types of leprosy are there depending on the host immunity. Now these 5 types, so these 5 types together, that is tubercular, borderline tubercular, borderline lepromatous, and lepromatous types. These 5 types together are determinate types of leprosy. So these are determinate types of leprosy, and this classification is known as Ridley-Joplin classification. So if they ask you according to Ridley-Joplin classification, how many types of leprosy are there? 5 types: TT, BT, BB, BL and LL type. Now there is one more possibility, that if the host immunity have not yet determined to act against this mycobacteria. Okay, so if it is undetermined, so this leads to indeterminate type of leprosy. So if the host immunity have not yet decided to act against it, this leads to indeterminate type of leprosy. Now once the patient develops indeterminate type of leprosy, there can be 3 possibilities. Later on, if the immune system responds, it will heal. If it do not respond, it will persist in the same way, and if it deteriorates, this indeterminate can change into determinate type. So there are three possibilities: it might heal, it might persist, or it can deteriorate to determinate type. Now let us discuss all these types individually. First is indeterminate leprosy. Now if you recall, while discussing pigmentary disorders, I have already discussed indeterminate type of leprosy along with pityriasis alba, because both may have similar presentation. Okay, so let us quickly revise the points which we have already written. So pityriasis alba and indeterminate form of leprosy. What are the common features? Both are commonly seen in children. Common site involved is face. Both present with hypopigmented lesions. Generally they are single. What are the differentiating feature? Scaling is present in alba, it is absent in leprosy. Sensation is intact in alba, it might be impaired in leprosy. Because it is indeterminate type, it is plus minus. It might be impaired, it might not. Atrophy is not seen in alba, it might be present in leprosy. History of atopy is present in alba, absent in leprosy. So these are the clinical features which will help you differentiate these two conditions. But still, if you are unable to differentiate, you can do histology. So when you do histology, here you will get spongiosis, while here you will get periappendageal, perineural. So periappendageal, perineural, lymphocytic infiltrate. So periappendageal, perineural, lymphocytic infiltrate. So periappendageal, around the appendages. What are appendages of skin? Like hair, glands, and around the nerves, perineural, you will get lymphocytic infiltrate. Now I told you that alba is a self-limiting condition, so no treatment is required. Sometimes there is scaling and dryness, so you can simply give moisturizers, that is emollients, to these patients. While here this is considered as a paucibacillary type of leprosy, paucibacillary. And what is the treatment for paucibacillary? We give PBMDT, that is paucibacillary multi-drug therapy. So this is the treatment. But in some books you might have seen written that Rome regime is given for single lesions, like the single lesion which is seen in indeterminate leprosy. Rome regime. Rome regime is 3 drugs given simultaneously, that is rifampicin, ofloxacin, minocycline. But remember that this is old treatment, no longer used. So Rome regime is obsolete now. This is no longer given. It was previously used for single lesion of leprosy. Let us move on to determinate leprosy. I already told you determinate leprosy have stable poles like tubercular and lepromatous, and as we move towards lepromatous pole, you will find in between there are borderline unstable types like BT, BB, BL. So these are different types of determinate types of leprosy, that is TT, BT, BB, BL and LL, that is tubercular, borderline, borderline, borderline lepromatous and lepromatous. And remember that this disease is a spectrum of disease. It is not a clear-cut line that this is TT, this is BT. Many a times, you know, this is the spectrum which is moving from one to another depending on the immunity of the patient. Okay, so what happens when we move from this pole to that pole? So these are the few changes which occur as we move from tubercular pole to lepromatous pole, which we are going to write down. And you can remember that these are the 4 important distinctions which you can make between them. First is bacteriological. So bacteriological, as we move from TT pole towards LL pole, bacterial load increases. Bacterial load increases. So second is cell mediated immunity deteriorates as we move towards LL part. Then lepromin test positivity also decreases. Then inflammatory mediators like interleukin 2, 12, interferon gamma. As we move towards LL pole, they changes to interleukin 5, 10. Then clinically you will find single lesions which are seen in TT pole gradually become multiple. Asymmetrical lesions gradually become symmetrical. Definite anesthesia, that is definite sensory loss which is seen over the lesion, become diffuse type of sensory loss. In LL pole, diffuse, that is glove and stocking pattern. Then histology also changes. In TT pole, you will get epithelioid granuloma with large and abundant giant cells, while in LL you will get foam cells. Foam cells are lipid laden macrophages, so large and abundant foam cells with globi. Globi is the cigar pack arrangement of these foam cells. Like if you see the specimen, you will find these foam cells compactly arranged, something like this, giving cigar pack arrangement. Then look for Gren zone. Remember that this Gren zone is absent, that is occupied in TT, but this is present, that is free in LL. Now you might be wondering what is this Gren zone. Okay, so remember, this is clear uninfiltrated zone. So this is clear uninfiltrated zone in upper dermis, seen in cases of leprosy. Let us try to understand this. If this is epidermis and this is dermis, normally there are projections of epidermis which are going down, these are known as retar edges, but in leprosy there is obliteration of retar edges, due to which this upper portion of the dermis appear clear, known as Gren zone. Why? Because the infiltration which occur in leprosy generally involve the deeper portion, and this upper clear rim of dermis is seen. This is known as Gren zone. This is generally clear. So in TT type, I told you cell mediated immunity is good. Now because the cell mediated immunity is good, lot of inflammatory cells, they come and infiltrate this area and they might occupy this Gren zone. But as we move towards LL, what happens? This cell mediated immunity decreases, and so is the size of this epithelioid granuloma, and this free Gren zone becomes visible. So free Gren zone can be seen except for in TT type, where it might be occupied or absent. So sometimes they ask you Gren zone is seen in or Gren zone is absent in. So it is absent in or occupied in TT. Now let us write down few important facts. Sometimes these questions are asked directly in the exams, like they might ask you which is the most common peripheral nerve involved in leprosy. Answer is ulnar followed by posterior tibial. If they ask you which is the most common cranial nerve involved in leprosy, answer is facial. If they ask you which is the most common type of leprosy, it is BT. If they ask you which is the rarest type of leprosy, it is BB. If they ask you satellite lesions are seen in, BT. If they ask you punched out lesions are seen in, Punched out lesions have other names also, like this is also known as inverted saucer shaped lesions, Swiss cheese lesions. They are seen in borderline. Just now I will explain what are these. Satellite lesion, I already told you, if this is the primary lesion and multiple smaller lesions start developing around them, these are known as satellite lesions. Similarly, in BB type what happens, the lesions have central depressed area and these outer margins, they are scalloping outwards, something like this, giving inverted saucer shaped lesion. It appears as if you have kept the saucer inverted. So this is the characteristic lesion which is seen. This is also known as geographical lesion. So if they ask you punched out, inverted saucer, Swiss cheese or geographical lesions are seen in, answer is BB, borderline. Then they might ask you that which is the first sensation which is lost in leprosy. Pain, touch, temperature. So remember, it is temperature, cold followed by hot. If they ask you blindness in leprosy is due to, it is due to exposure keratitis. If they ask you virulence of Mycobacterium leprae is due to, it is due to PGL1, phenolic glycolipid 1. Now there are few other types of leprosy also, like histoid leprosy. Here you just need to remember 2 points. First, presents with nodules over normal appearing skin. So presents with nodules over normal appearing skin, seen after dapsone monotherapy. So this type is seen after dapsone monotherapy. See, nowadays what is the treatment for leprosy? We give multi-drug therapy. So multi-drugs are given simultaneously, but previously we used single drug. So those patients who were on dapsone therapy, they started developing this type of leprosy. Then Lézarine leprosy. Lézarine leprosy is LL type of leprosy which develops in malnourished individual. So this is LL type of leprosy which develops in malnourished individual. Lézarine leprosy. See, Lézar was the name of the beggar where this type of leprosy was discovered for the first time. Okay. Why I am telling you this? Because Lézar was a beggar. And since he was a beggar, he was not having anything to eat. So he was suffering from malnutrition, and then he developed this LL type of leprosy. Such leprosy is known as Lézarine leprosy. Okay, so remember, Lézar, beggar, malnutrition. If such leprosy develops malnourished individual, this is known as Lézarine leprosy. Then third is Lucio leprosy. This is also known as lepra bonita. So Lucio leprosy, also known as lepra bonita. Have you heard this word before? Bonita. This is a very famous word. It is used in so many songs like Chica Bonita, La Isla Bonita. So in a song from Madonna, La Isla Bonita, which means beautiful island. Then a song from Shaggy, Chica Bonita, beautiful girl. This is lepra bonita. What does this mean? Beautiful leprosy. So this is beautiful leprosy. Now, why this leprosy is so beautiful? So remember, so what happens here? Diffuse skin infiltration leads to erythematous, smooth and shiny skin. Okay. So diffuse skin infiltration leads to erythematous, smooth and shiny skin. So what happens? There is diffuse involvement of the skin. So first of all, there is uniformity. Okay. So patches are not seen, instead uniformly skin is involved, and due to this uniform involvement, what happens? The skin appears erythematous, smooth and shiny. So erythematous, that is pink. So skin appears pink, smooth and shiny, so it looks beautiful. Okay, so this is beautiful leprosy. This is seen in central part of America. So this is common in Mexico. Then there is pure neuritic type of leprosy. So pure neuritic type. Pure neuritic type. Now this is very obvious from the name itself, pure neuritic. Okay, so here only nerve involvement is seen. So nerve involvement is present, skin involvement is absent. So skin involvement is absent, only nerve involvement is present. So if you do skin smear, so if you prepare skin smear, it will come out negative here. So how to make the diagnosis? You need to do nerve biopsy. So in pure neuritic type, diagnosis is based on nerve biopsy. And this is the common question which is asked, that which is the preferred nerve for taking nerve biopsy in leprosy? Answer is yes. So you should always take biopsy from sensory nerve and not motor nerve. Why? Because you are taking a small tissue out of the nerve and there is a high probability that you might damage that nerve. So if you have taken biopsy from motor nerve, patient will develop motor deformity, isn't it? So leprosy would have given motor deformity later, but you have given motor deformity there itself while investigating the case. So this is not valid. Okay, so this is not good. So what you should do? You should take from sensory nerve, so that if you damage the nerve, at least only sensory loss is there is no motor deformity. So always choose sensory nerve, whichever is there in the option. So nerves which are preferred for taking nerve biopsy are sensory nerve like sural nerve, cutaneous branch of radial nerve. So you can take biopsy from these nerves. Now there are so many classifications of leprosy. You might have read in PSM, Madrid classification, Indian classification, Ridley-Joplin classification, WHO classification. So there is a lot of dilemma in the mind of treating physician that which classification to follow. So that's why WHO gave a very simple classification, and according to this classification you just need to remember 3 cardinal features, and based on these 3 cardinal features you can very easily diagnose leprosy into 2 types, that is PB and MB. And to diagnose these, you just require 3 cardinal features. So this is WHO classification where you need to remember 3 cardinal features, and based on these 3 cardinal features you can classify leprosy into 2 types, that is paucibacillary and multibacillary. Okay. So first cardinal feature is you should do skin examination. And what you should look for over the skin of these patients? You should look for hypopigmented, hypoanesthetic patches. So hypopigmented, hypoanesthetic, such patches which are having pigmentary loss and sensory loss. If you find 1 to 5 such patches, it is paucibacillary. If you find more than 5 such patches, it is multibacillary. Second thing is you should do peripheral nerve examination. So look for peripheral nerve thickening. So while palpating the nerve, look for peripheral nerve thickening, and if you don't find any thickened nerve, it is paucibacillary. If you find more than equal to 1 thickened nerve, it is multibacillary. Second is prepare skin slit smear, and look for acid fast bacilli. If they are absent, it is paucibacillary. If they are present, it is multibacillary. So you can see how simple it is to make the diagnosis of leprosy, and once you have made the diagnosis, the treatment was also made very simple. Okay, so if your diagnosis is PB, give PB-MDT. If your diagnosis is MB, give MB-MDT. So what is the treatment of leprosy? It is multi-drug therapy, which can be paucibacillary multi-drug therapy or multibacillary multi-drug therapy. Now in MDT, that is multi-drug treatment, we give 3 drugs, that is rifampicin, dapsone, clofazimine. The doses of these drugs are: rifampicin is given 600 mg once a month supervised, same in MB. Dapsone is given 100 mg daily, same in MB. And clofazimine have 2 doses, one is monthly dose, that is 300 mg given once a month supervised, and remaining days patient can take 50 mg daily, same in MB. So all the 3 drugs and their doses are same in PB as well as MB. So what is the difference? The difference is duration. The duration of therapy for PB is 6 months, and here MB it is 12 months. So for 6 months in PB cases and 12 months in MB cases. So remember, all the 3 drugs are given in both PB and MB. Previously we used to give 2 drugs in PB and 3 drugs in MB. Now 3 drugs in both, and the duration is different, that is 6 months in PB and 12 months in multibacillary. Now these doses which we have written, these are adult dose. So in adults we use these doses, but what about children? In children, the treatment is, so if you are giving MDT child, again it can be of 2 types, PB and MB. The drugs are same, that is rifampicin. The dose is 450 mg once a month. Same in MB. Dapsone 50 mg daily. Same in MB. Clofazimine, as I told you, 2 doses, 150 mg once a month and 50 mg alternate day. So this is the treatment for children of age group 10 to 14 years. But what about children less than 10 years? So if the child is less than 10 years or weight of the child is less than 40 kg, then you can use rifampicin (10 mg per kg body weight), dapsone 2 mg per kg body weight, clofazimine monthly dose 6 mg per kg body weight. This is monthly. This is also monthly. This is daily, and 1 mg per kg body weight daily. So this is the treatment for leprosy. But sometimes what happens, when we start treatment, patient may develop reaction, that is known as lepra reaction. That is the exacerbation of pre-existing disease due to change in immunological status of the patient. That is known as lepra reaction. So there are various types of lepra reaction. Like type 1 lepra reaction and type 2 lepra reaction. There is one more type which is known as Lucio phenomena. This is very rare. We will write down few points about this later. Before, let us write down differences between these two, that is type 1 and type 2 lepra reaction. These are few differentiating features like hypersensitivity. So this is type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, this is type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. If you forget this in examination hall, you can do a very simple thing. You can add and check. Whatever is coming to your mind, you can add and check. So if your sum is equal on both the sides, then only you are correct. Okay. Now, if you didn't like this method, you can do one more thing. What you can do, you can simply close your eyes and try to recall this table. Now, while you are recalling this table, simply move clockwise from where you have written 1. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see how simple it is. 1 is 4, 2 is 3. Second is, this is seen in which type of leprosy? So type 1 is generally seen in borderline group, that is BT, BB and BL. While type 2 lepra reaction is generally seen in lepromatous group, that is LL and BL. Then clinically, here there is exacerbation of pre-existing disease, that is the previous lesions become there is lot of edema in the previous lesions, so they become edematous. Patient might develop neuritis. While in type 2 lepra reaction, patient start developing new lesions. These new lesions can be in the form of nodules over skin. These nodules over skin are known as ENL. ENL stands for erythema nodosum leprosum. Okay, so that's why type 2 lepra reaction is also known as ENL reaction. Or patient can develop arthritis. Patient can develop orchitis, that is inflammation of testis, iridocyclitis. So these various new lesions might develop in type 2 leper reaction. These are not seen in type 1 leper reaction. Then if we talk about inflammatory mediators, here the mediators are interleukin 1, interleukin 2, interferon gamma. While these mediators here are TNF alpha, interleukin 4 and 5. TNF alpha is very important, already question have been asked. Then they might ask you about the drug of choice. So remember, the drug of choice for both is same, and that is steroids. So steroids are the drug of choice for both, that is type 1 as well as type 2. Commonly we use prednisolone, and it is used in the doses of 1 mg per kg body weight. We start with this dose, but we taper every 2 weeks. Like if there is a 60 kg patient, we start with 60 mg tablet, and then every 2 weeks we taper by 10 mg, like 50, 40, 30, so gradually we taper. But remember about this drug, thalidomide. Thalidomide is not effective in type 1, it is very effective in type 2, and it is so effective in type 2 that this is considered to be a gold standard drug. So the confusion arises that if this is the gold standard and that is the drug of choice, which one to choose if they ask you which is best drug? So best drug is thalidomide. Which is the fast acting drug? Thalidomide. So thalidomide is the best drug, fast acting drug, gold standard drug, still it is not drug of choice. Why? Due to two reasons: less availability and severe side effects. So we know it is a teratogenic drug, and due to this less availability of this drug, WHO has made steroid as the drug of choice, though still the best drug is thalidomide. So if you are using thalidomide, then give in the doses of 200 to 400 mg daily. I told you there is one more leper reaction which is known as Lucio phenomena. Okay. Now remember, this Lucio phenomena is seen in patients suffering from Lucio leprosy. So this type of leper reaction occur in patients suffering from Lucio leprosy, and I already told you that this is a very rare type of leprosy seen in central part of America, that is Mexico. Okay, so this is restricted to one geographical area. In this type of leper reaction, ulcerative lesions are seen. Ulcerative lesions over lower extremities. So ulcerative lesions over lower extremities which do not respond to steroids or thalidomide. So generally they do not respond to steroids or thalidomide. So if patient develops severe type, so in severe Lucio phenomena, exchange transfusion is done. So in severe cases we do exchange transfusion. So I told you, in indeterminate type of leprosy, generally in a child over face you will get this solitary hypopigmented lesion. So solitary hypopigmented lesion over face in a child is seen. They can be present over other site also, and these are indeterminate type of leprosy, and that's why sometimes we get confused with pityriasis alba. But the differentiating features you should remember, that is scaling, atrophy, history of atopy, these you need to check. Then if we talk about TT type of leprosy, lesions are generally single, and as you can see, this is hypopigmented hypoanesthetic lesion, and it appears very shiny. Why? Because there is autonomic system involvement, due to which there is loss of hair, loss of sweating, and this appears shiny lesion. So generally the lesion is single, and this single hypopigmented hypoanesthetic lesion will be seen. If we talk about BT, I told you satellite lesions are seen. And what are satellite lesion? Around primary lesion you will get a secondary smaller lesion. These are known as satellite lesion. So irregular borders might be present, satellite lesions might be present. This is very characteristic of BT type of leprosy. The number of lesion might increase, like here you might get 2 to 10 lesions. Then in borderline type of leprosy, the lesions further increase, 10 to 20 lesions might be present, and the characteristic lesion I told you is punched out lesion. So you will find, if this is the lesion, there is a punched out area. If this is the lesion, there is a punched out area. If this is the lesion, there is a punched out area. If this is the lesion, there is a punched out area. So all these lesions have a central area which is missing. So punched out lesions are seen in BB type of leprosy. This is also known as inverted saucer appearance. Why it is known as inverted saucer? Because the central portion is depressed, the margins are raised, which are scalloping outwards on both the sides, giving appearance similar to inverted saucer, as if you have kept a saucer which is inverted. Okay, it is also known as Swiss cheese. Why it is known as Swiss cheese? Have you seen Swiss cheese? Swiss cheese is the same cheese which is shown in Tom and Jerry show. The cheese having lot of holes. Okay, so is this lesion having punched out area. It appears as if the central area is missing, it has been punched out. Okay, it is also known as geographical area. Geographical lesion. Why? Because if you look at the outer edges of this lesion, it is irregular and bizarre shaped, giving appearance to some continent, isn't it? A geographical area with irregular margins or borders. So this is characteristic lesion of borderline. Now, as I told you, this is a spectrum. So what happens? This is unstable form. It might change to BT or BL. So when this BB type changes to BL, you will find that as we move from TT to LL, the symmetry increases, the number increases. So here the number of lesions are more. So you can see more than 20 lesions are present. Then bilaterally symmetrical lesions are present. There are few punched out lesions, but they are becoming increasing in number. They are becoming symmetrical. So this is changing to BL. And in BL, you will find that multiple lesions are present. Their size have reduced, but symmetry have increased. So number increase, symmetry increase, size reduced. Okay. Then in LL type, you will find numerous lesions. So you can see numerous lesions, bilaterally symmetrical, and the cooler areas of the body are generally involved by this bacteria. So face involvement is seen. You can see face involvement. Gradually, as the disease progresses, what happens? You can see ear lobe infiltration, and as the disease progresses, almost whole face can get involved. Like you can see in this patient, whole face is involved. You can see ear helix, ear lobe infiltration. There is saddle nose, which is one deformity seen in LL type. Then you can see these rugosities which are present over the face, and there is lateral medrosis, ciliary and supraciliary, and diffuse infiltration of the face. And due to these diffuse infiltration and rugosities of the face, it appears as if this is a face of a lion. So this is known as leonine facies. So leonine facies is seen in LL type. Then as we know that nerve involvement is seen in leprosy, in LL type bilaterally symmetrical nerve involvement is seen, and depending on the nerve involvement you can get different deformities. Like if there is ulnar nerve involvement, you will get clawing of the fingers. So partial clawing of the hand might be present, and there will be sensory loss along the distribution of that nerve. Similarly, if radial nerve is involved, there will be wrist drop, and along the nerve distribution there will be sensory loss. Then median nerve is involved, then there is loss of apposition and there will be sensory loss. If both these nerves are lost together, there will be complete clawing of the hand. Then lateral popliteal nerve involvement will lead to foot drop. Posterior tibial nerve can lead to plantar anesthesia and clawing of the toe. Then trigeminal nerve can lead to corneal and conjunctival sensory loss, and facial nerve can lead to leg ophthalmos. So all these might also present in the patient of leprosy. Like you can see here, patient suffering from wrist drop due to radial nerve involvement, then patient suffering from foot drop due to lateral popliteal nerve involvement. Similarly here, facial nerve leading to leg ophthalmos. Then the skin becomes very dry. Like I told you, there is loss of autonomic system involvement. So what happens, that there is loss of sweating and the skin becomes very dry, and due to dry skin, what happens, ichthyotic changes start appearing. So fish like scales might be present. Like you can see here, these fish like scales might be present, and these fissures or the fish like scales or the dry skin leads to crack, and later on it can lead to plantar ulcers. Here you can see clawing of the toe. So plantar ulcers might arise. Now remember that ichthyosis can be due to leprosy also. Okay, so ichthyosis is a genetic condition we will be discussing later. Okay, so it is a genetic condition, that is ichthyosis vulgaris, X-linked ichthyosis, but there can be secondary ichthyosis. Secondary ichthyosis, that is primary, which is genetic. This is secondary ichthyosis, and leprosy is a cause of secondary ichthyosis. Okay, so what happened, due to autonomic system involvement, dryness of the skin and ichthyotic like changes can occur. Similarly, a drug which is used in leprosy, clofazimine, can also lead to ichthyosis like side effects. So skin becomes very dry when we use clofazimine in these patients. So that is the reason why you will get lot of dryness of skin in the case of leprosy, primarily due to leprosy, and when we use clofazimine it further aggravates. So these are the secondary causes of ichthyosis like leprosy and clofazimine. Then along with plantar ulcer, palmar ulcers might be present because the patient have sensory loss, and many a time patient develop burn or ulcers and patient don't even notice that. This image was asked in NEET once, and this nerve which is crossing the sternocleidomastoid muscle is the greater auricular nerve. So this is visible nerve. You don't even need to palpate, you just need to examine the patient and you will find this thickened nerve. So this is visible nerve when it is thickened. Then I told you lepra reaction, that is the acute exacerbation of pre-existing disease. So pre-existing lesions become edematous and inflamed and painful. So you can see these swollen hands and these swollen lesions which are of leprosy. Generally this occurs when we start treatment. Then type 2 lepra reaction, I told you this is ENL reaction, this is type 3 hypersensitivity. And what is type 3? Immune complex mediated. So that is the reason why these nodules are formed, because immune complexes get deposited in the skin leading to these nodules, and that's why it is known as ENL reaction, erythema nodosum leprosum. So all these nodules which are seen over the skin, these are ENL lesions. Okay, other than skin involvement, I told you there can be immune complexes deposited in the testes leading to orchitis or iridocyclitis, or it can lead to arthritis.